Today on Locked on Rockies, the biggest stage, one of the biggest stages, if not technically the biggest stage in all of baseball. It involved the Colorado Rockies. That's today on Locked on Rockies.
You are Locked on Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked on Rockies podcast for today, the 22nd day of March in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked on Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked on Podcast Network, where you can find your team every single day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every single day is talk about the Colorado Rockies. And you can be part of the show by subscribing to the Locked on Rockies YouTube channel and joining in the live chat to have your questions answered live on the show. And hey, it's a lot more fun when we all get to chat together. It's a whole blast. As big old Rockies fans, this is your first listen of the day. I thank you for that. We appreciate you for that. Today on Locked on Rockies, we are going to talk Kyle Freeland. We're going to talk World Baseball Classic. I know there's been a little bit of a dip in talking spring training around here as the Rockies tune things up. The roster's taking shape, but we got to talk about our guy. We got to talk about our guy, Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland, guys, Kyle Freeland, gals, you stand up and you cheer. And I want to address the elephant in the room for some. They're going to say, but Kyle Freeland gave up the go-ahead home run. That Team USA offense let Kyle Freeland down. And boy, look, folks, that's his life. That's what he's been dealing with. We talked about that whole time. I'm telling you, Kyle Freeland is an incredibly unlucky pitcher. And yes, he hung that pitch, and boy, howdy did that dude from Japan not miss. That ball was crushed. But he was dominant forever. That game is going to be talked about. That game is going to be the most watched game of baseball of all time. And for 3 innings, 3 of them, Kyle Freeland was on the mound representing the United States, the cities and state of Colorado, and the Colorado Rockies on one of the biggest baseball stages of all time, and he was great. I know the home run is just a blemish, but it doesn't matter. What he did to Shohei Ohtani. I stood up out of my chair and I was yelling like it was Game 7 of the World Series. I saw Kyle Freeland get on the bump and I dropped everything. I had to make sure I didn't want to miss a pitch. And then he goes out there and he freezes Shohei Ohtani on a knee buckler. Oh my goodness. I can watch that clip 8 million times and I wouldn't even think twice to watch it 8 million more. That is the potential. That is the promise. That is what Kyle Freeland is capable of. And I believe Manny Randwaz said it on Twitter. Kyle Freeland does not shy away from the big moments. He hasn't been able to be in a ton of them, and as Manny pointed out, he hasn't always been great in them, but he isn't going to shy away, and he also is able to step up. Folks, it doesn't get much bigger than that yesterday. It really doesn't. I mean, the World Series, of course, is a bigger deal, but that is the second biggest stage in all of baseball, and for some, it's a bigger deal. And Kyle Freeland was successful. Kyle Freeland had one bad pitch that was punished, but his offense wasn't able to do it. But what does he do after walking a batter in his after striking out? He gets that leadoff walk or that one out walk, whatever it was. What's the next batter do? Weak ground ball, double play. It was textbook Kyle. That is Kyle Freeland. That is the excellence of Kyle Freeland. And you can see why it's successful. And you can see why Kyle Freeland, these people just scoff at some of these pitchers on the Team USA roster. And yes, Team USA could have dominated and been better if they had better pitching. Yes, there are better pitchers than Kyle Freeland. Yes. But Kyle Freeland is no joke. Kyle Freeland is great. I am not hesitant to say this. Kyle Freeland was a Rookie of the Year candidate. Kyle Freeland has gotten Cy Young looks before. Kyle Freeland plays in what everyone says is the hardest place to pitch, and he succeeds at it. He's also been incredibly unlucky. You guys saw the defense last year. You guys saw the offense last year. Kyle Freeland is definitely responsible for his lack of hitting location and the issues that he has. Kyle Freeland is not perfect, but Kyle Freeland certainly is a caliber pitcher that can handle the biggest moments and the biggest stages. And to see that classic Kyle Freeland strut after he strikes out the biggest name in baseball in the world, the man that half a country tuned in to watch, Shohei Ohtani, buckler, K. And then he gets Ohtani again. Kyle Freeland, after he gives up the home run, goes out to continue a solid outing. Kyle Freeland is an excellent pitcher. Kyle Freeland freaking rules. Kyle Freeland is a stud. The Colorado kid, and that's a whole other level. I think that's a whole other thing that I think Rockies fans born and raised in Colorado, like myself, can appreciate. That dude grew up going to watch the Rockies. That dude grew up listening to people talk about the Rockies. That dude experienced Rocktober. That dude got to play with Nolan. That dude is another person that embodies, you know me, I'm a sucker for the players, the veteran players that the Rockies have that embody Rockies baseball. And Kyle Freeland is, it's just like when you look at like a Charlie Blackmon and such. I mean, that guy is another Mr. Rocky. Incredibly involved in the community, raises so much money for Special Olympics. This is why, again, you can question money, you can question stuff, and yes, again, Kyle Freeland's not perfect. But this is a reminder that on a big stage, the Rockies have a player ready for that moment and ready to step up. And that's why they turn to him constantly. That's why he's number one in the rotation last year, and that's probably why he's going to be number one in the rotation again this year. Let's talk a little bit more about the World Baseball Classic in general, now that I've done my gushing about Kyle Freeland. But first, here, I got to tell you about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook, your spot for all your sports betting action. They got the free, secure app that you can just download right on the phone. And then you can place your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you sign up today at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You're going to get bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win with that no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. All you got to do, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Future bets still live for the Rockies. If you're more confident, less confident, however you're feeling about the Rockies, you can still go check out some of the future bets. And you can even combine your bets when you go bet on your Denver Nuggets, say, as well, for a same game parlay. Don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We also are streaming live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show just like Brendan Kramer, Lux Ace, Nicholas Delvo, all are. Brendan Kramer says, what a WBC. Wish we had one more win, but Free looked pretty dang good. Yes, he did. Of course, people are going to fixate on that home run, but not me. That's still a really good line. Really, really good line for Kyle Freeland. I feel like I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to find the stat that I want to find. But we'll also take a look at the live chat some more here. And let's see. Okay. Lux Ace says Freeland is nasty stuff. I'm glad the league can know about it a little more. Nicholas Delvo says Freeland rocks. And Lux Ace says, you always love a hometown hero. You absolutely do. You absolutely do. I'm a big-time sucker for it. It's just absolutely one of the brilliant things. I mean, it's oh, man, he was just so good. 6 innings pitched for Kyle, 5 Ks, only 3 hits. Pretty good. And you can already tell. You search Kyle Freeland on Twitter, and you're already seeing people whining. But the biggest disappointment in otherwise the perfect game of baseball, by the way, as a spectator. I mean, I guess more offense maybe, but last night the perfect game of baseball was played. It had every single thing that you loved about baseball. It highlighted the pageantry. It highlighted the excellence of play. It highlighted the skill. It highlighted the importance. It highlighted the fact that baseball's freaking cool. It can be cool. Now, it's easy to get that caught up. It's a huge thing. That's why the World Baseball Classic is so important. Of course, we're not going to feel the same way in the middle of a long rocky slog in the middle of the season. One thing I'm taking away is I feel like I'm warming a little bit up to the shortened season, but I think baseball is so long because it serves its purpose on the sports calendar and fills the gaps of when things aren't. And I think that's kind of why and kind of the benefit of baseball. So I'm a little more hesitant there, but when baseball has the stakes, World Baseball Classic, playoffs, playoff hunt down the stretch, it just has the ability to really sink in, and as does any sport. But I think there's something about baseball. There's something especially about a run down the stretch, how 162 games can come down to 3 or 4 down the stretch, 1 down the stretch, and that's just such a unique baseball thing. And it adds such a thing, such a layer that makes the playoff hunt and baseball with stakes just so interesting, so compelling. It adds so much to a game where people are like, well, so what? It's just running around, they're standing around there. But then when you add the stake of every pitch counts, when every single time a batter is out, that is 1 less out to work with, and you got 27. It just makes it, I feel like, did I just blow that? Hold on. My new shift has me working very early. No, 27. Yes, I still do the old finger trick when multiplying by, if you need to multiply by 9, you just do the old, there's no way they teach that anymore. There's no way. They don't want people counting on their hands. Anyway, that's completely not what we're talking about. But again, it's another, and I don't want to go back to the point where that's already been made. That last night shows why the World Baseball Classic is important, why it matters. That last night highlighted every single great thing about baseball. And then to cap it off, Are you, folks? Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, 1-run game, full count, and it ends in a strikeout on literally, arguably Ohtani's best pitch of all time. I mean, what more could you ask for? Big plays on defense, hits, not enough hits. I mean, stifled that Team USA offense. Couldn't handle Japan, who was just so good in that tournament too, man. Man, that Ohtani. I mean, there's probably already, I bet you, some incredible photos of those two facing off. Whoa, man. I mean, that's just storybook. I mean, that makes you wonder who pulled the strings behind the scenes, man. Because that was perfect. A perfect baseball moment, a perfect baseball game, a perfect example of how awesome baseball is. The capabilities or the possibilities of baseball. And that filters out to the entire tournament. There has to be a team, and it's hard. I mean, there's no, and you can't do it, but there has to be a team that's paying a lot of attention to the experience of the WBC and trying to figure out how to recreate that during the regular season, which is really hard to do. Could baseball benefit from some more in-season tournaments or something? It kind of sounds crazy. But it's just interesting to think about when you play so many games. How can you still be so worried about a game in the middle of June when you got 80 more to go? You know, or however many games to go. It's a great dilemma of baseball. It really is. I mean, it was. I mean, that at bat had every baseball fan on their feet in the entire world. Everyone that was watching that, I mean, they were hyping it up. It was Ohtani watch the whole way. Japan's out of the bullpen. Japan is closing with Yu Darvish and Shohei Ohtani, going up against an unbelievably stacked Team USA lineup. Be nice to see some more exhibition games. It would be nice to see some Team USA in the off season every now and then. You know, because they have to do that for. They got to do that for the World Cup and everything. Man, what a moment! So cool, so cool. Even cooler for my brother who was there. He got to go. His wife's from Japan, and so he bought the tickets way in advance. Hoped that it was USA Japan, and there it was, USA Japan. Yeah, it was a bummer. If Trevor Story was on there, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado on the left side, Kyle Freeland, man, would have been cool. I'm Heel says this year the WBC became the World Cup of baseball. I mean, that was the hope, and they certainly achieved it. So, man, that was great. It was really great, and now we get lots more baseball to come. Exciting baseball, hopefully, for Rockies fans. We'll see. Let's talk about what the Locked On Podcast Network tweeted out here and discuss some power rankings. Yeah! Coming up, segment number 3. But before I do that, why don't you show off your GM power and climb to the top of the power rankings in Ultimate Pro Baseball GM? You've always wanted a shot, folks. Why not carry around the power to finally lead the Rockies the way you want to lead the the Rockies in the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM app. The gameplay, well, it's realistic. So you're going to have to go in there. When you're in the app, you're going to open it up, and there's going to be a lot going on. You're going to have to make sure that you are taking all the steps. You're going to have to manage and work your budgets. You're going to have to work with your free agents. You're going to have to make sure, are you going to call up the young guys? All of this with realistic numbers and a perfect simulation that it breaks all the stats and things down and gives you a way to comprehend them, because you got to be able to make your decisions, of course. So they do a great job of bringing the game and putting it into and gamifying it. It's kind of gamifying the game. Pretty interesting way of saying it. But you have to hire your coaches and your staff. So that means that requires you to manage all of your finances as well. You're going to have to scout and draft the players, and you're going to have to navigate through free agency and the ups and downs of a season, all in this challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free. Yes, completely free. Don't need to be connected to the internet either. You can play on the go, as where you go, the Ultimate Baseball GM game goes along with you. Locked On Rockies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the App Store. You can see it here on the screen if you're checking us out on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. I want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do, search Locked On Rockies, and you'll be taken to where you need to go. And then when you go to the Locked On Rockies podcast, you can support, you can subscribe, and you can be part of the live chat just like I'm Heel. Leandro's here as well. So many great folks hanging out live. Why don't you go make Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs your second listen of the day, or go win your fantasy league with tips from the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. The Locked On MLB hosts voted on power rankings, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will spoil one of them. The Colorado Rockies are ranked 27th out of 30. The only teams, I will give the teams below and 2 teams above. 3 teams above. Nationals, Athletics, Tigers are below the Rockies. Reds, Pirates, Royals are above the Rockies. Now, folks, call me crazy. Call me a homer. Call me a little ridiculous. But I don't think any of those teams have anything better than the Rockies. I certainly don't think it's the Royals. I certainly don't think it's the Pirates. And I certainly do not think that, the Marlins are interesting. The Reds as well. The Reds could be like sneaky surprising, but I don't necessarily. The Rockies always play the Reds well, and I still don't think the Reds are really there. They just had their owner say, "What else are you going to do last year?" So, they don't get out of the woods. But you're going to tell me the Royals are better than the Rockies? You're going to tell me the Pirates are better than the Rockies? I don't believe that. I believe the Marlins are better than the Rockies because that team has insane pitching, and they actually did add some offense. The offense actually has to perform. We'll have to see how that actually happens. And Miami also always kicks the crud out of the Rockies, so that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and allow the Rockies to be placed that low. Luxay says, to be fair, our owner isn't much better than the Reds. No, I agree. He's not. He's far from what we're looking for. But you can't say that he at least doesn't. He's never told us what else are you going to do. And people still show up. That's the one thing. The Reds. I mean, the Reds have the lineage that people will always go to Reds games as well. But the Rockies have never. The Rockies might have been bad, but they've never been dealt with down, not a lot of people coming to games bad. So what do you think? Let us know. Give us some feedback. Go out over there on the Locked On Podcast Network's Twitter. Let them know what you think about where we ranked the Rockies. And, man, I'm still just kind of blown away from that game last night. I just can't believe that everything about that ended on a Trout-Ohtani battle, full count, 1-run game. And it's a strikeout, man. That is beauty in baseball. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for tuning in. Great live chat today. Be a part of it tomorrow by subscribing to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel so you know when we're live and you can ask your Rockies questions. Be part of the show. Give us your comments, your feedback, all sorts of good stuff here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Proud to be your first listen of the day. We're also free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Go make Locked On Broncos, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Buffs your second listen of the day. Locked On Fantasy Baseball is going to help you win your fantasy league as well. Till next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.